Hi everyone, I'm David Fisher, and this is Presidential Chronicles, the series of books and videos on American history as seen through the lives of the presidents of the United States. This episode is from the life of Benjamin Harrison, and the focus is post-war law and politics. The year is 1865, it's June, and soldiers are arriving back into their hometowns. Indianapolis was the settling point for most of the folks coming back into Indiana, and Benjamin Harrison and many of his men showed up on the train on June the 16th. The governor of the state, Oliver Morton, came out to greet them, and Harrison gave a big address to the people who showed up. And it was certainly a celebration, but there was also a somber element of this, as Harrison reminded the folks that he had left Indiana with 1,021 men. 188 of them were killed. 194 were wounded, a 37% casualty rate. Yes, it was a celebration for the victory, but there was also a remembrance of the cost of that victory. Harrison had the chance to reunite with his family and his wife Carrie, along with his son Russell, who's now 10 years old. Mamie, their daughter, is 8. Indianapolis had grown just in the last couple of years. More buildings, more people, and he had his job to get back to, his political job, because he had recently been elected back into his old position as the state reporter for the state Supreme Court. Plus, he had his law practice, his private practice, with a new partner coming in, an experienced attorney, Albert Porter, to go along with Pink Fishback. So the three of them now had this partnership. Now, Harrison had committed to himself late in the war when he was sick with scarlet fever, and he wasn't going to work so hard like he did prior to the war when he got home. Well, that didn't turn out to be the case. His work habits came back. He was working nonstop, his state job, his private job. Frankly, he was near a physical breakdown by 1867, and his wife, Carrie, had to intervene. She insisted he take a 3-week vacation. He agreed. He went off to do some hunting and fishing in Minnesota, and when he came back, he made a decision. He was not going to run for re-election for his state reporter job. His focus would be his family, his church, and his health. Now, he did participate in a number of celebrations, war reunions that he would gladly get together with his former comrades. He joined a couple of the large veteran groups like the Grand Army of the Republic and the Society for the Army of the Cumberland. And politically, he aligned himself with the radical wing of the Republican Party. These were the folks who were taking the most aggressive stand in terms of Reconstruction with the South. In terms of Harrison's legal time, he had high-profile legal cases that he was actually taking on, a couple of them in particular. One, he actually stood in as a prosecutor, and this was the retrial of Nancy Clem, who was charged in the murder of Jacob and Nancy Young. Now, this was a gruesome murder, very high-profile case. In the first trial, it had actually landed in a hung jury. So Harrison took over as the prosecutor. He took a very meticulous approach, covered all his bases, took all the evidence and tied it together really neatly in a package for the jury, and they came back with a guilty verdict. According to the Indianapolis Journal, no prosecution within our knowledge was ever more skillfully conducted. The road was mapped out from the beginning and followed with a patience, vigilance, and energy that is added to the already high reputation of General Harrison. Then there's the case of Lambdin Milligan. Milligan had been convicted in a military court for conspiracy to obstruct the war effort. He was sentenced to death. Now, his death sentence was commuted by the new president, Andrew Johnson, after the war, but he still wanted to sue for his freedom. And for this, he sued in federal court in a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Landmark ruling ex parte Milligan. The court ruled that the original trial was inappropriate and now void. And so actually Milligan was released. What was the problem? Well, he was tried in a military court at a time when the civilian courts in the North were actually up and running. And according to the Supreme Court, again, precedent-setting case, he should have been tried in those civilian courts. So he was wrongly convicted, wrongly tried, and now he was set free. But he was not willing to let bygones be bygones. He was still very upset about the entire thing, and he wanted to go after the people who put him in jail in the first place, and that meant political leaders and military leaders. He sued for civil charges in federal court. These were the big guns now coming out from the lawyers. On Milligan's side, he went with former Governor Thomas Hendricks. The defendants, they hired Benjamin Harrison. Now, after the Supreme Court ruling, the law was really in the side of Milligan. This was going to be a tough case for Harrison to win. So what did he do? He appealed to emotion. Just as he would do in the political races to come, he basically waved the bloody shirt to be able to say, remember this, remember all those Union boys who were shot and were killed in service to their country? Well, He put that on trial as well, and the jury paid attention. In the end, the verdict came back and actually sided with Milligan. The damages he was awarded, $5. This was, again, a big moment for Benjamin Harrison as his stock continued to be on the rise, which brings him back into the political arena. The party leaders were pushing Harrison to run for governor in 1872, and he said, look, I don't think I'm right yet, I don't think I'm ready yet, but I'll accept if you offer me the nomination. So they went to the Republican convention, and actually Harrison finished second. Tom Browne won that nomination. Again, he was fine with this. He really didn't feel it was his time yet. In fact, they offered him the ability to run for the open seat for Congress from Indiana, and he said no. Again, not time yet, not for me. I'm going to keep focusing on my own legal career. And for that, again, he had a change. New partners coming in. A former judge, Cyrus Hines, joined the partnership, along with William Miller, came in from Fort Wayne. This was a busy time for the firm. The Panic of 1873 kicked in. A national downturn economically. This is the second term of Ulysses Grant. Bankruptcies were everywhere. That meant a lot of legal work in the bankruptcy arena, which was a specialty of this firm. He actually had enough money now finally coming in that the Harrisons were able to build their own home, a 2-story red brick house, cost him about $20,000, including all the furniture, but finally had home ownership. He was most proud of his personal library, which was starting to rival his grandfather, William Henry Harrison's library. 1876, the politicos came around again. They said, look, it's time to run for governor, and Harrison continued to balk. He said, look, I'm going to pick my spots, not time yet. And so the Republicans went with Godlove Orth, who is a former congressman who is now serving in Grant's administration as the minister to Austria. The Democrats went with James Blue Jean Williams. And where was Benjamin Harrison in all this? Well, nowhere, at least initially. But then Orth suddenly quit the race. Turns out there were scandals aplenty in the Grant second term, and Godlove Orth was caught up in one of them. He felt his candidacy was no longer viable. He got out, but there were only a couple of months left until the election. So who would run for the Republicans? Everyone pointed to Benjamin Harrison. Now at this point, he was actually on another vacation off to Michigan, but the Republicans decided to nominate him anyways without even talking to him. Then they sent a bunch of people to flock together to intercept his train on the way home, caught Harrison completely off guard, and he told everybody, look, I'm not ready to say to you tonight what my answer will be to your central committee, but I may say to you confidentially, however, I don't at present see how I am to get out of it. Well, the pressure continued as he got home. There were about 5,000 people there to greet him, all Republicans pushing him to run. Telegrams were pouring in from around the country encouraging him. The very next day, Benjamin Harrison said, fine, I'm in the race. Well, Williams, who was a folksy, down-to-earth farmer, had already been campaigning, so Harrison had some catching up to do. Again, he was very effective on the stump, connecting with his audience, crisscrossing the state, and occasionally, in fact, when Williams and Harrison were in the same place, they would debate each other. This was a campaign of substance, like hard currency versus soft currency. That was a campaign issue, but it was also a campaign of emotion, the war, the waving of the bloody shirt. For Harrison, he said, look, for one, I accept the banner of the bloody shirt. I'm willing to take as our ensign the tattered, worn-out old gray shirt worn by some gallant Union hero, stained with his blood as he gave up his life for his country. When they purge their party of the leprosy of secession, we will bury the bloody shirt in the grave with the honored corpse who wore it and not before. So this was part of this campaign theme. The outcome of this race was going to be really close. In fact, it took 3 days after the polls closed before they finally declared the winner, and in the end, it was the Democrats. A clean sweep at the state offices, but Harrison was not down and out about the defeat. In fact, he immediately went to campaign in the national election, which was about a month away, for Ohio's Rutherford Hayes, the Republican nominee. He campaigned not just in Indiana, but in Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And when Hayes won the controversial election of 1876, it eventually created an opportunity for Harrison. In the latter part of the administration of Hayes, Hayes asked Harrison to sit on the Mississippi River Commission, which was stood up to actually study the navigation challenges of the river and also how could they better protect the banks from kind of the constant flooding in certain areas. So Harrison agreed. He took this on. He learned a lot in the process and came away with some mixed results based sort of on his own constitutional interpretation. He said there were needs to fix the navigability of the river in certain places, and the use of federal funds for that perfectly appropriate. As for fixing those levies in local places, Harrison said no. In his view of the Constitution, that's inappropriate. Those are local challenges. They should be fixed with local dollars. So this was his perspective in this service. Now, at this point, 1878, Harrison suffered a real personal loss. His father, John Scott Harrison, who had the greatest influence on him of anybody in his entire life, died. This is May of 1878. He was 73 years old. All of the community showed up for the funeral. But then an odd thing happened. Harrison's younger brother, John, found something amiss in the grave of one of his friends by the name of Augustus Devin. The plot had been disturbed, and he actually looked down and there was something wrong, so they dug it up, and it turned out that Devin's body was missing. Well, he made it his mission. He was going to go find this body, and there were grave robbers at the time, not that uncommon, because medical schools would pay a lot of money for bodies. They felt they needed them for their own research, and frankly, they didn't ask any questions, so it became pretty lucrative for grave robbers. The only clue that John Harrison had was that a wagon was seen dropping something off in the wee hours of the morning the previous day at the Ohio Medical College in Cincinnati. So he and some friends searched that campus, and they found in a room a windlass. And with that, something large was attached at the bottom of a dark chute beneath a trap door. They pulled it up, and sure enough, there was a naked dead body. But it wasn't Augustus Devin. It was John Scott Harrison, Benjamin Harrison's father's body. Well, the community, of course, was immediately appalled at this. Benjamin Harrison was shocked about the whole thing. He wrote an open letter to the people of Cincinnati with a strong plea that God would keep their precious friends from the barbarous touch of the grave robber and preserve themselves from the taste of hell, which comes from the discovery of a father's grave robbed and the body hanging by the neck like that of a dog in a pit of a medical college. Well, he immediately arranged to have his father's remains reinterred, added some additional security, and there was a political consequence to this for the better. Laws were passed that actually enhanced the punishment for grave robbers that did diminish this practice going forward, but still a shocking end to the life of John Scott Harrison and certainly his family. Where was Benjamin Harrison going next? Well, once again, those politicos keep calling, get him to run for office again. That's the story for another day. That's Benjamin Harrison and post-war law and politics from the life of Benjamin Harrison. For more Presidential Chronicles, check out my books on Amazon.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm David Fisher, and this is Presidential Chronicles.